Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Chris Lingle, excited for this Tuesday Global Reach Leaders Call. We've been doing this every week now, and we're down to the ninth step of the Bryan's 10 steps, and just so excited. And Jessica Taylor, who's on the Global Reach team, has been putting together some amazing YouTube videos that have some different pictures and stuff, and we're going to start adding these to the Global Reach YouTube so that you can go and you can take your new teammate through each one of these as we go through. So it's just so much fun, so exciting, really coordinating a lot of stuff together. So if you're on this call, you're already taking the step. We're going to talk about being a leader and taking ownership. And being a leader, number one to being a leader is showing up, and you're here, and I'm so excited to have you on here. Like I said, name's Chris Lingle. I'm 30 years old. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I currently am in California. I'm working as a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 10 years. I work this business part-time like a lot of people on this. This is something you can do part-time. For me, I found that in nursing, I could only make as much as I was going to get paid that night. No matter how hard I worked, I still got paid the same. And I tell you what, I busted my butt this week. And I'm getting paid the same as if I was hanging out. And what I wanted was something where if I bust my butt, I get paid what I'm worth. And that's what I feel like WG really does. We've got a financial money machine that is just in all aspects. The thing is just amazing. And I'm not going to get into a lot of business detail because I want to get into this topic of being a leader and taking ownership of your business. But before that, I want to bring in my mentor, a mentor to all of you on this call, somebody that changed my life for business, just an incredible guy and a true professional, and been a professional in this industry for over 20 years. And what a great way to head us off here and talk is Bryan Robert. Bryan, do I have you on the call here?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Bryan, go ahead, take a second and introduce yourself and just a little bit about what we're doing, and we're going to jump into being a leader.
Absolutely. So my name is Bryan Robert. For those who have never heard me talk, which is unlikely, but maybe you're listening to this on a recording, I am a professional network marketer. What does that mean? It means that this is my profession. It's not something that I do full time. It's something that I've done on a very high level for 24 years now. It's a profession, just like being an engineer or anything else is a profession. It's something that I've taken a lifetime to perfect and something that I'm still learning. I got involved in this industry like a lot of people do. I just got invited to a meeting one night. I have no concept of what network marketing was. I had no preconceived notions of what it was. And I was 17 years old, got invited to a meeting, showed up. It was Amway. I never heard of it. I thought I discovered the most amazing thing in the world. And as I told my mom that I was going to try to make a career out of doing Amway, she was not very happy. She thought that was no good. I found out very quickly that all my friends and family were not interested in it. But I saw something. I caught a vision. I thought, if this is real, why wouldn't everybody do it? And, while other people were telling me that, no, this won't work and it can't work and, it's a scam and people don't make money, I was meeting people that were making money, regular people, just like me. And some of them took, 10, 15, 20 years to make money. But I thought, well, shoot, I can work at this for 10, 15, 20 years, or I could work a job for 40 years and never reach my goals and dreams. So I was hooked, and I figured, what, if they can do it, I can do it. Started working my business, worked it for 2 years, did not have any success. And fortunately, my brother introduced me to a guy who became my mentor, Barry Ackle. This guy, in my opinion, is the greatest networker who's ever lived. He's an 8-figure earner, and in the early 90s, 1995, he was already an 8-figure earner. And he was in his early 50s and basically said, look, this isn't get rich quick. This is something that's hard work. It's a profession. And, the way he talked about it wasn't a lot of hype. He wasn't trying to sell me to get in. He said, look, if you do what I say for the next 5 years, I'll teach you this profession. I'll teach you this industry. So I listened to him. And when we talk about becoming a leader and being a leader, I learned what being a leader was from watching him and from observing what he did to build his business. And then through trial and error over the years, I've learned what leadership means in a lot of different aspects of life. So fast forward, I've had an incredible career over the last 24 years. I've been full-time for 22 years. I made my first $1 million in this industry like 22 years old, and I've probably done $1 billion or somewhere close to that in sales in my career. I probably brought in about 1 million people in my organizations in about 25 plus countries. I consult for the network marketing industry. I write comp plans. I consult companies and teach them and tell them, how to become better and how to be more successful. And really my entire life has revolved around this industry. So I love this industry. It's not perfect, but what industry is. But this whole process has led us over here to WG, and what I found with this company is, what I consider, kind of that dream, right? A company that is at the right timing. It has owners that get it. They're not from the network marketing industry. They're regular guys who have been really successful in business, who believe in this industry, who have taken some amazing products and their own vision to bring these products to the masses. And the best way to bring a product to market is through network marketing. And that's why our industry now is about a $250 billion industry and accelerating. It's one of the most successful industries in the world. It's one of the only industries in 100 years that's never had a down year. It's continuing to grow, and there's no end in sight. My opinion, I believe that every single person in the world should be involved in network marketing at least part-time, because it's one of the only businesses that you can do on your own time. You don't have to put a ton of time into it. If you have extra time, you can put more time into it. It's something that you can do casually. It's something that you can do, professionally, and it's something that you don't have to change the rest of your life around. And it's one of the few ways that you can get a second paycheck without having to go out and try to figure out how to get a second job. What WG has done is they've kind of taken that to another level, where they've created products that the customers actually have an income potential, which was unique. I've never seen that before. And there's a simplicity to it where when you talk to people about our business, which we've done a lot of that, and over these calls, we're going to do a lot more of that, but there's a simplicity to it where when you talk to somebody about who we are and what we have, there's an immediate interest. It's kind of like, hey, well, that's neat. Tell me more about it. Yeah, that's all really you can hope for in this business. And so I'm excited to be part of this. I'm excited to talk to about leadership tonight. Chris Langle, somebody who I've worked with for a lot of years. He's one of these people that had a vision to have success early in life. While a lot of his friends were out there trying to figure out, did they want to finish college? Did they want to go? Getting dead-end jobs. He went out there, became a nurse, started making tons of money, and started living his dreams, at least, to the point where he understood them, kind of at that age. And then when he realized, well, you know what, I'm kind of maxed out already, this young, found network marketing, and just put his head down and started being consistent. I don't want to, put words in his mouth, but probably wasn't really pushing it the hardest, at first, just kind of was consistent with it. And all of a sudden, I saw it, or something clicked in him, and all of a sudden he, started really building and started taking it, extremely serious. And now, really is, my right-hand man, especially here in the United States, and of course has business everywhere, all over the world. So anyway, with that, Chris, throw it over to you, and let's jump into leadership.
I appreciate that, Bryan, and that's very true. And one of the things, like many of you on this call, I just started showing up. I just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. And Bryan, as one of the people said, if you want this, you just got to show up. And it's so funny to me why people don't show up, because I have so much fun listening to this positive stuff, being on the call, showing up to meetings, showing up to events. I have so much fun, and I get to see so many of my favorite people or hear from them that it was just kind of easy for me. And that was one of the biggest things. And Bryan, I really want to peg this back to you too in this. I believe being a leader is a decision. And we're going to get into this of, right here on your 10 steps is this is your business, not your uplines. If you succeed, it's your fault. If you fail, it's your fault. So I want you to talk about that. But really, we're talking to all age demographics. What's so great about WG is I feel like we encompass young, old, it doesn't matter, everybody out there. Money, most people have a money problem. We can help them to improve that. So you start at 19 in your story, and I love your story, and you meet a mentor. at what point, because I'm sure a lot of people in here like, okay, I want to be a leader, but I don't feel like I have that background. Like how did you, what was like the moment where you stepped into leadership? And I believe for me, it was also kind of a decision. I showed up enough to say, you know what, I want this, I'm going to do it. And then we'll get into like how they do that. But what was kind of the decision point, especially even for young people who are maybe are thinking, I mean, you still look like young. Yeah, you're still a young looking guy. And even then at 19, you look like a baby. I've seen pictures and I'm one of those guys too. But, how do you the effective leadership and take people under your wing, and also like where does that decision come from, and then transition into, how to do that?
Well, I don't really know that it was a conscious decision. I think that this term leadership is thrown around a lot in everything, in business and life. And I would say that the majority of people that throw around this term leadership and that their leaders are anything but leaders. They're the furthest things from leaders, or they think they're leaders, or maybe they're on the track of being leaders, but they're really not. And leadership just wasn't something that I even thought about or talked about when I was really coming up. I didn't really. It wasn't something I was focusing on. I didn't really think much about it. It was something that I kind of realized at some point that I was, and what I kind of thought was I was a good follower. And I would say that the best leaders are actually the best followers, because there's this misunderstanding that, being a leader is somehow the person who's in charge, the person who is the boss, the person who's telling other people what to do. People have this idea that because they're in the upline and somehow they signed up first, that they're now the leader of these people, or because they go to some event, go watch Tony Robbins, or read a book, or go to GoPro, that somehow makes them a leader. And there's nothing to be further from the truth. The leaders are those that serve. A leader is someone who is bringing other people up. A leader is, someone who is setting the example. A leader is a follower. And, the question would be, well, who are you following? What principles are you following? Because whatever you're following is what you're going to teach to other people. The best definition to me of a leader would be the person who sets the best example for other people to follow. And so you're setting an example, you're following something. And for me, I was following my mentor. And what I would do is, we would have conversations, but most of the things that I, learned from Barry were things that I observed. They were me watching him deal with certain situations. They were me watching him, build a business on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis. They were me observing other great, successful people in this industry and watching how they treated their people. They were watching how they treated their organization, how they treated people in other organizations and other teams, how they were able to have the humility and the not fear of loss to bring other people up in other organizations, to help them make money, to put their people first. They were, me observing people, how they treated their family and how they treated their friends. And what I noticed was that the people that were most successful in everything were the people who followed the best, who followed the best example, who made the most correct decisions, and who set the pace. The leader is the person who shows up first and set the chairs up. I've been in some organizations where the quote-unquote leader shows up, and we kind of always joke, they want the cones put out, so when they pull up, they got the cones out for their car, and they step in and they go up, and they're above everybody, and they speak in front of the room, and they talk down to everybody, and somehow they think that means that they're the leader. And what I learned and what I try to emulate is, the leader is a person who's getting there first, who's helping to set up the chairs, who's, doing those things, who's making sure that, the stuff is clean. And if the floor is not done, they're out there vacuuming and they're getting it done right. And they're the person who's definitely up there on stage also, but they're up there to teach things. But their main thing is they want to bring their people up and they want to see their people succeed. And that's what I saw. That's what I learned. And I never thought or considered myself so much a leader until I started having so much success in the business, and I started trying to explain to people, well, this is what you do to be successful, and this is, how you run your business to be successful. And that's when I realized, well, this is what leadership is. And if you really want to look at our business, how do you build a large organization? How do you build an organization of 10,000 people, 50,000 people, 100,000 people, millions of dollars a month in volume, which I've done on multiple occasions? It's by developing layers of leaders. And, something that I've mentioned before on these calls, Chris, but something that my mentor told me, I remember we were at a huge event, and him and I were standing in the back of the room, and it was about time for him to show up, and we were standing back there, and he kind of, leans over to me and says, you'll never be, truly successful in this industry until you're the guy in the back of the room. And I remember as he said it, I'm kind of thinking about it, and then they call his name, and, when he runs on stage and everybody's cheering him and he's high-fiving people as he's running up. And I remember thinking, as a young guy making a lot of money and probably getting a little cocky and too big for my britches, I'm thinking, well, shoot, Barry, you're always in the front of the room. I mean, what does that even mean? And over the years, probably of everything he's ever told me, or I've thought about that the most. And we've never really talked about it, but I understood what he meant by that. And, of course, if you're one of the top earners, you're going to be in the front of the room. And what he said means something to me and has changed the meaning, and that meaning will change for you over the years as you become a bigger leader. But in a simple form, to explain to people, what it really means is that, look, you have to be okay with it not being all about you. You have to truly be putting your people in a position to succeed. You have to develop layers of leaders who are going to be able to stand on their own, because we talk about this residual income, and the question that I've asked myself, and the question that you should ask yourself, if you disappeared tomorrow, what would happen to your business? Think about that. If you disappeared tomorrow, what would happen to your organization? Would it continue to grow? Would you continue to make money? Would it fall apart? Would one of your legs die? What would happen to your business? And being a leader, it means that you're empowering people to have layers of leadership that if you walked away, your business continues to grow. And it's making it about other people and not necessarily about yourself. And I'd say if there's anything that I really took away from my years working with my mentor, it's that. It's empowering people. It's making it about other people. It's having the humility to be okay if other people are getting recognized, and not just in your organization. A lot of times, Chris, I see people that they cannot take it if people across line are making money. I mean, they cannot take it, even people in their own downline. I've seen people that are so distraught saying that, man, this person doesn't deserve all the credit that they give, and I'm doing all the work for them and everything. I'm like, man, you are really missing it. I mean, this person in your organization, this is what leadership is. It's about bringing those people up. It's about being okay. It's about being okay that other people in other companies are having success. As our industry gets bigger, as people are having success, even in other businesses, it's only going to help you. If it wasn't for people who, companies like Amway that have gone against the government, who have become multi-billion-dollar companies, if it wasn't for all these pioneers paving the way for us, we wouldn't have an industry right now. And so having a measure of that, not having a scarcity mentality in the industry, but especially in your organizations, I mean, that's really what being a leader is. And I would say that probably the turning point really in my career when I started consciously thinking about leadership and growing leadership was probably rebuilding, when I was in a situation where the company had gone out of business and I was starting over again, and I was, building it up. It was realizing that, you could duplicate those principles where, you could really make a conscious effort to do those things. And sometimes you're going to ask people, hey, you know what? Make it about other people. Have humility, build other people up. And they may not feel it. I mean, they may internally just kind of be haters. They may be a little small-minded. And, I don't know any other way to say it. We all have our character flaws, but you can duplicate it. You know what? You can fake it a little bit. And over time, you'll start to see that that's the right decision. And, I think that was a turning point when I was like, okay, you can consciously make decisions towards becoming a leader, towards doing things the right way. And if something is duplicatable, that means that anyone has access to it, if they follow those, follow the steps and follow those principles.
That was a ton of great stuff. I hope everybody's taking notes like I am on this call. And I look forward to bringing more people up on these calls, Bryan, like you've done with me, and keep passing off these torches and letting people, showing that. And one of some of the things that you hit on that are so important is, how does a leader show himself? It's because you're doing that example. You're leading by example. And a quote I read recently, which I love that you brought this up, was by John Wooden, who is one of the top coaches of all time. And he says the most powerful leadership tool you have is your own personal example. And that's how I define my leaders. I know it's how you define your leaders. Who's showing up? Who's showing up to the meetings? Who's showing up to the events? They stand out. And it's who's doing the action. And you talked about that last week. It's setting the example of showing up and doing the action. And when you can tie those two things together, you can be wildly successful. And I just want to hit on one thing on you before we jump in, and I know these calls go fast, is you were somebody, the reason we've worked together all these years is because you're somebody who set that example. I mean, we've gone through tough times together. I've seen leaders that you worked with for years, want to mutiny and do all this crazy stuff, and I was able to just sit back and watch the example that you and Mandy had set and how you conduct business, and that was the biggest thing for me. And I'm like, I'm going to follow that guy. He's one of the ones that is good and trusting, and I think that trust is very important with leadership. Another thing I was thinking of whenever you were talking, and maybe we could hit on this as well, is, what are you portraying to the world on your Facebook page? And are you dressing up as a leader, as you're showing up as a leader, presenting your best self? These are some issues that I was thinking of. But, if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then also maybe hit on this part, and then I want you to hit on this too. I know as we're kind of getting on the wire is, we all have the same compensation plan, the same product, the same company. Only difference is you. And people like to say, oh, my upline, my downline, this. So if you could hit on maybe setting that example in a really great positive way, and as well as also talking about like how this is your business and taking ownership.
Sure. Well, look, this is getting to something called ownership, and this is one of the, one of the steps, and it's all together. Owning your business, owning your decisions. It's the culture we live in. People love to blame anything and everything but themselves for whatever situation they're in. And something that I heard very early on that was very tough to hear was, you are where you are based on the sum total of all the decisions you've made up to this point. So wherever you are in your life, good or bad, you've put yourself there. There is nothing else that has put yourself there but yourself. And it's very difficult to take. It's so easy to say, everyone else has put me here but myself. But the reality is everybody has roadblocks. Everybody has tough things that happen to them in their lives. Yet some people overcome it and some people don't. Taking ownership of your business. If you fail in this business, it's your fault. If you succeed in this business, it's your fault. There are people that have terrible uplines that have success. There are people that have incredible uplines that have failure, and everywhere in between. It's like these people that call up. It's like, oh, you know what? I can't find the answer, so I quit. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, my upline didn't help me. He never told me the answer, so I've quit. Well, guess what? If you really wanted to, you could have found that answer. There are plenty of people whose upline did not give them the answer. They went, they researched it, they found it, and they went on to have success. It's how bad do you want it? Unfortunately, we live in this culture, where it's like, what do they call them? The participation trophies, right? Hey, you get a trophy to participate. There's no losers, right? There's no first and second place. You know what? We're all winners. And it's like, it's nonsense. And, it's creating a culture of there's no accountability. I used to say that network marketing is the great equalizer because you'll find people that have everything stacked against them that go out there and have success, because it's based on your efforts, in your work, in your consistency, and how correct you do it, in your motivation. And you have people that have everything going for them. You know, they got money, they're good looking, people like them, and they fail at this business. And I've seen it over and over again in so many different companies over so many years in so many different countries, where some people fail, some people succeed. And a lot of that is about taking that accountability. I remember talking to somebody, well, I say talking to somebody, this is probably, I don't know how many hundreds of times I've had the same conversation. And, you know, we talk about how you conduct yourself. I remember I do look young, and my mentor, Barry, was giving me some crap because I had a goatee. You know, here I was, 21 years old or whatever I was, and I could barely grow a goatee. I mean, I almost barely grow it now. And, and I had one, and Barry was like, hey, you need to shave that off before you go on stage. And I was so mad that he said that. I was just thinking, why would you even tell me that? And he told me the story. He said, look, when I was coming up, he was getting ready to go up for a big event, and his mentor, so 20 years before that, who was a huge networker, he had a beard, and this was in the 70s. And here in the United States, in the 70s, if you had a beard, it was considered counterculture, like hippies and like you were lazy and everything like that. Now, it's not the same now, but that's the way the culture was then. And Barry thought, hey, this is who I am. I'm an individual. I mean, how dare you tell me what to have? And, his mentor didn't let him come up. And he was so mad, and his mentor told him a phrase that I've repeated so many times. He says, look, you want to be right or you want to be rich? He says, unfortunately, people judge. And when you get up on that stage, you need to be everything to everyone. You need to talk to people that have different beliefs, different religions, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and you need to be able to relate to all those people. And you can stand up there and say, hey, you need to accept me because this is who I am. I'm this individual. And you know what? They probably should. It's bad on them that they don't. But that's the world we live in. So congratulations, you're right. You made a point. You're this individual. That's your style. But people aren't going to relate to you as much. And I see this all the time. People say, hey, I dress like this because of this. I've got, all this and the way I look because that's who I am. I'm an individual. And people don't like it, screw them. Well, hey, you know what? Great. You're right. People should accept you. But unfortunately, it's not the world that we live in. And if you're going to conduct yourself as a business person and you're supposed to be a leader of people and you're supposed to set an example and you're on your Facebook page and you're using profanities and you're putting videos that, don't make sense and you're being polarizing and you're being argumentative and you're, talking crazy to people and you're drunk or whatever all these different things are, hey, people are going to judge. And the reality is people are going to attract and follow people that make them better. And that's the other thing that I've learned, Chris, over all these years is people can say whatever they want, but over time, people will be attracted to people who are making better decisions because there's something in us and all people that they want to be a little bit better and they want to follow people that are better. And so, that are doing better, that are making better decisions, that are trying to be good people. And so you'll see that, over time. Taking accountability for yourself is just that. If you're not showing up, own it. If you're not doing the right things in the business, own it. If you're not talking to people, own it. And it's really easy to say it's not my fault and everything else. If you can't be honest with yourself, then who can you be honest with? And, and I've talked about this before, and I know we're already almost there on time, but whenever my business is not where it needs to be, and I had a conversation with a huge networker, not just very recently, who's in another company, and we just said we were having a conversation, and this person's business is not where they want to be, although they're wildly successful, probably more successful than me. And we were talking, and I realized at some point they're asking me for advice. And what I told them was, look, whenever I'm not where I want to be, when my business is not where it needs to be, when I feel like it's off track, when I feel like there's something missing, I always take a step back. And instead of looking my downline and saying, well, what are they not doing right? And why are they not working hard enough? And what are they doing? And projecting it to other people, you need to stop yourself and internalize and say, okay, what am I duplicating to other people? Because at the end of the day, your people are simply duplicating what you do. And unfortunately, they duplicate the bad sometimes before they duplicate the good. So if you're not happy with where you are, you're not happy with what your people are doing, you getting on them and telling them what they're not doing is usually not the answer. The answer is looking at yourself and saying, what am I doing? And so I go through my 10 steps. And what I'll usually find 9 out of 10 times is that I'm not doing things correctly. And so what is the golden rules? You do the business correctly, consistently, and long enough. So that first one, I'm not doing things exactly correct. I'm not reading my whys every single day. I'm not setting people up in the business exactly right. I'm not reading those books. I'm not doing my list right. I'm not doing all those basic steps that we do. And if you're off track, why would you think your people wouldn't be off track? How can you expect them to be on track if you're not on track? Because a leader is going to lead people down a certain path. And here's the other thing, Chris. Everybody in the world is changing the world. Literally, everybody out there is changing the world, not just people in network marketing. Everybody out there is changing the world on maybe a small scale, some people on a bigger scale. We're changing the world because people around us are duplicating us. People around us are following our example. And it might be family members. It might be, little, siblings. It might be friends. But people are watching what you do, and they're following it. So you're influencing the world for good or for bad always. And the same thing follows in this business. And so when you talk about leadership, you have to ask yourself, what am I following? What principles am I doing? And what am I doing every single day to set the example? And if you want your business to go in a different direction, you have to stop and look at yourself and say, okay, what can I do to go in this other direction? And it's like steering a ship. And if you're making those right decisions, if you're in the business correctly, you're consistent with those correct actions, you do it long enough, and eventually you're going to get there.
Boom. I'm so fired up. I wish I had this call, Bryan, the way you're presenting this. I mean, this is something I wish I had in my business a few years ago when I had people veering off in the wrong directions, and I was frustrated. So I'm just so excited that we have this to put up, and what a great way to parlay into next week. So we're going to close out this call, just a few updates. Next week, we are going to be doing the correctly, consistently, long enough. This is the 10 of 10 steps, the golden rules, which is perfect the way that you finished out this call, because that's what we're going to get into. And I'm excited to hear, how you came up with that and everything. And this Thursday, everyone on this call, please get on this Thursday webinar. We're adjusting some things. We're going to have some testimonials. We've got some big leaders jumping on. We're going to start to kick it off to where we're going to have webinars going Mondays and Thursdays. We're going to get your European webinars going, a new call on Monday. We've got a lot of great stuff, so check in on the Facebook page. Make sure you're getting your people on. We're coming right into Christmas, so this week's going to be a really great time if you want to jump on or get people on the webinar, and we're going to push right into the new year. It's going to be a great time. So let me go ahead and unmute it. Thank you, as always, Bryan. That was an incredible call, and these half hours go way too fast, but I'm looking forward to keep pushing and adding great content to these. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Bryan.